Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment down below. Today we're going to be looking at the 2024 election map if the polls are wrong again like they were in 2020. And so we can see that basically all the states that have already filled in are essentially states that I think no matter what happens are going to go to either candidate. As of right now, I think that Hawaii is going to go to Biden. California, Washington, I think Vermont, like all those states, Delaware, Maryland, I think those are all 100% chance going to go to Biden. And then all these states are 100% chance to go to Trump, even Georgia and North Carolina. I'm very bullish on these states. I actually think he's more than likely going to pick these up. These are, North Carolina, he won it twice already. In Georgia, he won it once before, lost it, but the demographics in the state just don't look great for Biden at all. So that leaves the rest of the states basically up for grabs. And that's where we're going to be looking at the polling errors. And so the first state, Oregon, does not have an official aggregate, but my collective aggregate, according to my election model, has it at +6. And if you were to apply the polling error from 2020, which if we were to clearly look it up right now, we would see that it would be a 3.3 percentage point polling miss in favor of Democrats. That actually puts the state in the lean Democrat column as of right now. In Nevada, we're going to have an official aggregate out of DDHQ. We're going to look at it, and we're pretty much going to see that right now Donald Trump is currently leading in the aggregate as of right now by 4.3 percentage points. The polls were off by around 3.7, so that actually puts the state right about an 8% polling win for Donald Trump as of right now. Arizona is going to be an interesting one because Donald Trump did lose this one as well in the previous election. However, he maintains his lead against incumbent President Joe Biden by a pretty decent amount. He leads the aggregate by around 3 points. The polls underestimated him by 2.3. So if you were to apply that, that actually barely puts the state in the lean column for Donald Trump as of right now. It's right below the likely column. It's like a barely like 4.8, 4.9 percentage point victory for Donald Trump. If we were to look at Colorado, we're going to see Donald Trump is making gains in the state of Colorado. We're going to see that in the latest aggregate as of right now, Joe Biden leads by 7.1%. However, this state is the only state where the aggregates actually favored Biden in terms of, underestimating him. And so that's going to put the state as a +8 percentage point victory for the incumbent president. If we look at New Mexico, we're going to see out of this aggregate here, even if they even do have an aggregate, let's actually see. Yeah, they basically have no polling data as of right now, except for a couple of disapproval polls. However, there is one poll that does actually, okay, well, there is actually a poll from here. We do actually see a +7 poll out of New Mexico from May 1st from the same group that the Kennedy group actually did. So this actually has him ahead by 7 points. And so if you were to apply the polling error from here, this actually barely puts the state in the lean a Democrat column. It would be around a 4.8 percentage point victory for Joe Biden. As of right now, Nebraska's second would go likely Democrat. The average is around D+2. The polling aggregate actually overestimated Trump by 3.4, so that puts the state in the likely Democrat column. Illinois, if we look at the aggregate from DDHQ, we're going to see that Biden has a pretty decent lead here so far. However, it is much closer than last cycle. And so the latest, poll does actually have it as +13. We're going to see a couple other polls from here. You do see +9. So if we were to look at my actual election aggregate from here, it has Biden ahead by 10 points. The polling aggregate here was basically underestimating Republicans by 0.9. So that'll put the state as around a 9-point victory for Joe Biden. If we look at Virginia, this is actually a really interesting one, but Virginia actually is very much leaning into Donald Trump's column, believe it or not. This is a state that Joe Biden won by 10 points. And if we look at the aggregate, Biden leads by 0.1, and the average error was 2.4% in favor of underestimating Republicans. So that would put the state in the lean Republican column as of right now, which actually gets Donald Trump above the finish line in this election already without even having to touch the Rust Belt. New Jersey is a state that would be up for grabs. We would see the latest aggregate as of right now currently has New Jersey. We're actually going to pull it up here. There is no official aggregate, but we see here with John Zogby, we see he's ahead by 9. As of right now, we do see that +5 poll that did come out a couple months back with third-party candidates included. So my aggregate currently has the state as around a 5-point win. Currently, it's around, actually it's 6.5, and the actual error was around, basically was around 4.4. So that actually puts the state barely in the lean Democrat column as of right now. New York, in the latest polling aggregate, let's see if they actually even have one as of right now. There is no official aggregate, but this poll had Biden ahead by 7, with third-party candidates included. Same thing for this poll as of right now. So we could see the average is around, 7, 8 points. So let's say the aggregate is around 7 points. If we look at the polling error here, it's actually 6 points as of right now. That puts the state in the 1-point category for Biden as of right now, which is actually really competitive. Especially that state would be closer than New Jersey or even New Mexico or Oregon. This would actually be the closest lean Democrat state, probably even the closest Democrat state on the map, believe it or not. If we look at the state of New Hampshire's polling aggregate, we're going to see Donald Trump currently leads in New Hampshire by 3.7%. The polling aggregate error was actually 3.3, so that puts the state in the tilt Democrat column as of right now. Maine at large, we see that Donald Trump is leading there by a very, very large amount. There was one poll where he was ahead by 6 points. We do see here with the Zogby, pollster, he's actually ahead by 2, which is quite interesting. And so if we were to poll that, we'd actually see Donald Trump barely ahead in the state of Maine at large. The polling error here was around 2.7. So based on the average polling error, we would basically see the state be right above a 5-point victory for Donald Trump. Pennsylvania, this is a state that voted for Biden, voted for Trump as well. And if we look at the current polling data, he's ahead by 1.7. The aggregate underestimated him by 3.5. So that puts the state barely in the likely Republican column. Michigan, we're going to see a very similar story out of the state of Michigan. This state, Biden won it, in 2020. Trump won in 2016. Joe Biden, has been losing ground here. However, it is a 0.6 lead for Trump. The polling error, however, was a 5.2. That puts the state in the likely column as well. Wisconsin, as of right now, the polling error was 7.7% in the last election. And if we go down to Wisconsin, we're actually going to see Donald Trump leads here by 1.3. So that put the state almost at a 9-point victory for Donald Trump. I believe that actually puts him exactly at 9 points there. And the last state on here is going to be Minnesota. The polling aggregate here, believe it or not, is actually really close. It's actually a very, very slim victory for Biden. He's only leading by 0.6. The polling error was 2 points in favor of Donald Trump, and so that would put the state in the lean Republican column. And that is it for this video. We do actually see the state, the state of the nation is a landslide victory if you were to apply all the latest polling errors to the current polling data as of right now. We'd even see that in the latest, Fox News poll, Virginia is a dead heat. And when we look at, for example, 538, if we look at Virginia's last polling averages, we see he was ahead by 11 points, and we see, plus 16, plus 18, plus 15, plus 11. Those were nowhere near, except for the plus 11 polls. These were nowhere near the margin of victories in the state for Joe Biden. And so we did see the polling aggregate overestimate him by a tiny bit, just like it says right over here. And so right now we see Donald Trump winning in a landslide, and that's not too far off from what my actual forecast currently has the election right now, where he wins 345 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 193. And for those who say that this is still going to be a close race, if that was the case, why is the polling average in Virginia a dead heat, and why is the polling getting closer after Trump's conviction? As of right now, why would that be the case? And so that is my argument. If Donald Trump was really winning a close election, why are all the polling aggregates with the last polling error showing a large landslide? And I'm actually expecting a worse polling error, because Donald Trump's base is very hard to poll because of the fact that they are mostly rural white voters. A decent amount of them are, especially in the Rust Belt. And so the more, especially now that you have more Hispanic and African Americans trending towards him that wouldn't answer pollsters, I expect the polling error to be far worse as of right now. And so that is it for this video. This was basically the 2024 map. If the polls are wrong again, like 2020, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and drop a comment down below. I will see you guys very, very soon.